Hi, welcome to World PhD. We're doing a video for you today about what is pH, and I'd like to introduce myself. I am Kathy. I am a pH patient as well as an ambassador with PHA Canada.
And I'm Don. I'm her husband and caregiver. And we'd like to give you some information about pH. We're not experts in any way, shape, or form, but we are, we've been doing this for a few years, so we've got some insight into things. Let's go ahead and see where we go.
Grab your coffee and join us.
So welcome back, everyone. I hope you grabbed your coffee, and I would like you to sit down and join us. We're just going to kind of have a meetup like we would have on virtual or face-to-face. This way, we'll give you the information that you might be looking for, but not try to be so clinical. So we're excited to share with you this Q&A about pulmonary hypertension. Pulmonary hypertension can also be referred to as PH or PAH. For this particular video, we're going to just have it as PH because I think PAH is confusing. A lot of people only know PH. We are not experts by any means, and it has become our mission to educate everyone we meet about what pH is and how to cope with this invisible chronic disease. We are also ambassadors with PHA Canada, and we thought this might be a great way to introduce y'all to pH and our new life.
In November 2022, which was Pulmonary Hypertension Awareness Month, Kathy started a series of posts on her personal Facebook page called What My pH Looks Like. And she wrote some interesting information, some home truths, and some frustrations of living with pH. She shared it with her friends and family and others in the pH community. Many people wrote back telling her how much they looked forward to her daily posts. Kathy and I decided to carry on that series with World pH Day and asked friends and family and the pH community to ask us some questions they had about pH. We got over 100 questions, and here are a few that are specific to the question, what is pH?
So the first question is, what is pH? And that's a pretty important thing. I don't know about many of you, but I would think there's probably about 98% of us that probably never knew or heard the word pulmonary hypertension at all in their lives prior to diagnosis. I was going to give you a kind of more easygoing answer, but this is one thing after the 3 years that I've had this disease that I cannot solidify in my head as to what it means. So this is our hopefully our only clinical answer. But this is taken directly from the PHA Canada website, and they say pulmonary hypertension is a rare but very complex and serious, progressive, and potentially fatal lung disease. pH is defined by high blood pressure in the lungs resulting from inflammation or scarring in the pulmonary arteries. If left untreated, pH can lead to enlargement and weakness of the right side of the heart, which is a serious type of heart failure.
The next question we received was, how was pH first discovered? And that's kind of a tough question, but doctors have been trying to determine for the causes of pulmonary artery thickening in patients that showed no signs of any other heart or lung disorders dating back as far as the 1800s. But it wasn't until the 1940s and 50s that any definitive research was undertaken.
Which is kind of scary in some way because, that's a long time ago. That's before we were born, and we're old.
Yeah.
So what I'm kind of wondering is why has it been taking so long? Why so many people don't know about it? And is research for pH in a time now that it's going to be faster to research or more information to gather? I guess that's our hope.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough question. Like, is the research going to progress at a faster pace? Is it going to be exponential, or is it going to progress at this pace, that it's been going at? It has, indications are that it is going to be exponential when you think of the last 25, 30 years, and how it's really, the number of treatments and the number of doctors that are researching and that has changed and made it that much more. So hopefully that it will be increasing and more things will be coming down the line, but we're not sure.
And I wanted to add that donations to PHA Canada, the money goes towards research, and we have been lucky enough to give scholarships to up-and-coming doctors so that they can work on this definitive research. Our next question is, how many people around the world have PH? So, it is estimated in Canada that approximately 5,000 people are diagnosed with PAH, but as many as 10,000 may be affected by this condition. So, I did a little bit more research to see what else I could find out about the numbers of people around the world. And in a Lancet Respiratory Medicine article in 2016, it was called, the article was called A Global View of Pulmonary Hypertension by Marius M. Hopper. And it stated that present estimates suggest a pulmonary hypertension prevalence of about 1% of the global population, which increases up to 10% in individuals aged more than 65 years. So that's about 80% of affected patients living in developing countries. I did try to find out some stats for undeveloped countries, and I couldn't find anything, but I also found this little tidbit. In 2021, the American Journal of Managed Care published an article, Pulmonary Arterial Hypertension, Updates in Epidemiology and Evaluation of Patients, written by Deborah Jo Levine. And she stated that PAH is found in 15 to 50 persons per million within the United States and Europe.
The question is there a cure? Currently, there is no cure for PH, but there is more and more research going on and new treatments coming out that we are very hopeful for.
I have seen or read and been told that there is a new oral medicine that will be available to Canada. And we're not sure when. We have to get the approval and everything, but it's already been approved in the U.S. Through FDA standards. And this medicine, which I cannot pronounce, so I'll put it down in the description for you all. It has shown some really great signs of working for people suffering with the symptoms of PH. So the next question is it always idiopathic, or are there genetic markers for some people? Well, PH is not a single disease, like so many, I'm sure. But the World Health Organization has identified 5 distinct groups. Group 1 is pulmonary arterial hypertension, which is what I have. The second group is PH associated with left side hearted disease. Group 3, PH associated with lung disease. Group 4, chronic thromboembolic pulmonary hypertension, or otherwise known, thank goodness, as CTEPH. And Group 5, PH caused by various other diseases. So a funny little, I don't know if you call it an antidote, but funny little thing. I take things seriously, but sometimes I have to interject humor, or else I could just be under a duvet for the rest of my life. But many people were wondering, they knew I was going for all these tests and everything. And so I wrote on Facebook that thank God I finally got my diagnosis and my doctor thinks I'm an idiot. And then I said, oh, wait, no. My doctor said I had idiopathic pulmonary hypertension. The thing about idiopathic, though, it means reasons unknown. And for how many years had we gone to doctors and specialists and everything where the doctor would say, well, you have something, but I don't know, and big, shrug, like the emoji on your Facebook. So being idiopathic, being that I knew what I finally had was hard enough, but it was even harder because I didn't feel that we were progressing anywhere. And when I go to the doctor or I'm in the hospital, what do they always say to me?
You've got a complex case.
Yeah. I've been reading over your
complex case. Yeah.
So though it was nice to know there could be a name attached to the goings on of my body, I don't know. I wouldn't want any of the other groups, but I just wish I hadn't been idiopathic. I just wish that I had some real reason, concrete reason why I had this disease.
The question is pH more common in older or younger people, males, females, etc.? pH typically affects people aged 20 to 60, but it can affect people of all backgrounds, ages, genders. It affects both men and women, but certain types of pH tend to affect women more.
And for this video in particular, we're only dealing with the adult pH. We'll be doing a pediatric one at a later date. Our next question is, are there triggers for pH, or can it happen to anyone? Well, there really aren't any triggers that I could find anyway, and I've not heard of anybody else talking about it. So the thing is that pH is more common in people who have another heart or lung condition. So in my case, could have been because I had a hole in the heart. I'm not sure. We haven't said that. In some ways, the hole in my heart has helped with the pressures so that I didn't just explode when I was diagnosed. But now I have a stiff right heart chamber. Is it chamber?
Yes.
And so that is causing issues in its own right. So again, I would say that it's most common who have other heart and lung conditions.
The question is, are there ways to help the symptoms of pH through diet or anything like that? And the answer, I guess, is yes and no. Basically, like with any situation, everybody should be eating healthy, but when you have a disease of any form, I personally have type 2 diabetes, so I have to be very careful about what I'm eating. And with pH, it is important to be eating well. While that is the case, there's no specific dietary situation that will really be...
No formal diet has been written out.
No formal diet. I guess that's the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
But you do have to be careful of things like salt intake to manage edema, which is buildup of excess fluid in the body. And then there are also, certain foods can have adverse reactions with some of the medications. So you'd want to avoid those foods if they're going to interact poorly. And also some medications cause nausea. So, if you have something that causes nausea, you have to be very careful not to eat things that are going to exacerbate that and make it worse.
With the salt intake, I can tell you by personal example, and some of my friends in the PH community, we find that to be extremely hard or difficult, shall I say. So, yeah, the salt intake definitely is a major one that they kind of harp at us to watch and maintain. But also, edema can be built up with excess fluids that you drink or eat. So you need to keep track of soups and ices and waters and pops. So you need to just be aware of the things that you're putting in your stomach. The next question is pH something that you have had for years but only felt symptoms in the past few years? So this is more of a personal question that one of my friends asked, but in the last slide I was talking about a hole in the wall of your heart between the right and the left sides of the heart. I didn't say that in the last slide, but here it is. So typically a small percentage of people are born with that hole in the wall between the left and right sides of the heart. And in most cases, people with this defect or babies with this defect, the hole closes up by the time they're 2. However, in my case, the hole never closed up at all completely. I don't know exactly what the issue was. So because of that, it could have been a possible contributing factor. Doctors are unsure if it was or not, but when it's idiopathic, you've got to think of every little thing that's going on. So, with anything, we always have that moment of reflection or clarity, or, oh yeah, I can see how that was this way. Like, I'm really sensitive to peanuts now. And when I was young, I used to eat them when we were traveling from Alberta to Nova Scotia and back. And I can now remember in the back of my head that they didn't make me feel well when I was eating them. So, click, I couldn't handle peanuts and why it didn't manifest before that time, by the time I was 40. But anyway, I digress. So in reflection, I have noticed that, or I've thought, well, yeah, when I was young, I had problems with physical activity, like running, where I would get out of breath easily. And I was a sick kid that came down with almost every ailment known to man, as my mom would say. So when I look back now, I wonder, or I have to wonder, if these were early signs. So other than the shortness of breath, or in our community we call SOB, I don't think I really had any serious problems until December of 2015 when I was in San Diego.
Our next question is, how rapidly does pH progress? Well, a lot of things are dependent on, the answer to that is dependent on a lot of things. First is how quickly you were diagnosed. So once you started having symptoms, how bad off were you by the time you started really noting the symptoms, and then how long it took for diagnosis and things like that. Like in Kathy's case, she started having problems in December of 2015, and it turned out that it took until March of 2020 to have a final diagnosis saying, yes, you have PH. And there were many opportunities in between for it to be caught, and one in particular where it should have been caught, in our opinion. That was about 2.5 years before her diagnosis. So then we have to wonder now, if she had been diagnosed 2.5 years earlier and had started treatment at that time, how far did it progress from the one point to where she was finally diagnosed and got treatment? But PH is a progressive disease which will ultimately lead to right heart failure and death. But there are people that that go fairly quickly, and others that have PH that have, gone 20 plus years since diagnosis.
Yeah, they're close to 25. I think we have one lady who's really close to 30, if not at 30. So there's always the hope that enough medications and treatments will slow down the progression of the disease and have enough time for research to come out and say, oh, we found the magic pill, hallelujah, take this, you're going to be fine. But we all know that's a little bit of a pipe dream, but we can always live in hope, right? So the next question is, since the discovery of PH, has healthcare gotten better at treating and identifying PH? I will try not to be too jaded in my answer on this, but no, I think no is the answer for that. They're trying. I'm not saying that they're sitting on their laurels and doing nothing. There's a lot of research going on, but it's been so slow. And the thing that slows you down, and I'm just going to talk about my case more than anything, is a lot of family doctors, and this would be probably anybody who got PH, their family doctors just don't, they've never heard of PH. They don't know what to look for PH. So it's not on their radar, and so so then it gets delayed. Like in my case, my doctor, he meant well. He tried everything he could think of, sent me to every specialist that he thought could help my case. But each specialist would come back and say, I don't know what she's got, and send me back to my family doctor. And poor Dr. Reed just kind of had to put on his thinking cap, and I've had him call me at all hours of the day saying, I've been thinking about this, and so that's nice, but not everybody has a Dr. Reed. And unfortunately, I don't have a Dr. Reed anymore, so that's kind of sad. But in saying so, once you find that magic doctor that kind of has an inkling, and for me, it was an ER doc that I saw back in February 2020, who started saying, things aren't measuring out right here. And he actually looked at me and didn't give that condescending, you're a hypochondriac, lady, just go home and sleep it off or whatever. So once you are diagnosed, treatments have improved with more and more drug treatments becoming available as time goes on. There's oral, there's IV, there's subcutaneous, and so far Canada now has 12 approved drugs available for PH treatment, and like we said, there's one on the horizon and hopefully will come soon.
Yeah, and one thing to think about is, as Kathy was saying, the general practitioners, they're not aware. But even, as she said, her family doctor sent her to a bunch of specialists, and even the specialists are not as familiar with PH as they could be.
Like my respirologist.
So we ended up with, this ER doc was showing Kathy some of her file, and he was reviewing some of her file. And Kathy asked for a copy of it, and she sent it to me, and I happened to be down in San Diego for work and visiting with a friend down there who is a doctor.
A forensic pathologist.
Yeah, a forensic pathologist, so it's not like he does a lot with live patients. But we were visiting him, or I was visiting him. I was sitting at his house, and Kathy sent me the PDF copy of it and said, can you ask him to have a look at this, and maybe, have a question that I can ask the ER doctor.
So I was tired of leaving all the time and not fighting back and saying, okay, you say it's not this, but how are we going to figure out what it is? Because I definitely don't feel well.
Yeah. And so, I handed my phone to the doctor that I was visiting, and he looked at it for about 30 seconds, and he was reading it, and there was a notation on it. And this was from 2.5 years earlier. So this is the one that I mentioned in a previous, on one of the previous slides. And it was from 2.5 years earlier, and one of the notes on the report was pulmonary hypertension ? And so his response to me was for Kathy to ask the ER doctor, why does she have pulmonary hypertension? And believe it or not, from that, it was a matter of a couple of weeks, and we had a diagnosis, and everything was going well. But, and treatment was happening. Kathy was on oxygen right away and everything, but it took that one ER doctor just caring and wondering that extra little bit and just catching something, and us just happening to have somebody that was, that had the training to have a second look at it for us to get the ball rolling on a diagnosis.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I was going to add something, and now I can't think of it. I remember when he said that, ask why you have pulmonary hypertension, and I wrote back to Don and this friend, and I said, it's not pulmonary. It has nothing to do with my lungs. My blood pressure is really high, so it's got to be my heart. I just kind of dismissing. No, that can't be, because we kind of have a medical-ish association with doing up a journal and all that. So I took that file that he gave me, or those papers that he gave me, and I'd see certain words, and I'd look it up on my phone. And so I remember looking up pulmonary hypertension and them talking about something to do with the blood and the oxygen and all that in your lungs. And I'm thinking, well, I'm breathing okay. It's not perfect, but I'm breathing okay. But that's, a few days later, I found out why my blood pressure was so high, and it was because of my lungs. So
the question is, are there underlying causes that one can predict pH? There are some signs that you can look at that are similar among the severity of symptoms and the progression of pulmonary hypertension. Very few patients have all of these symptoms, but here are some of the common symptoms that most patients will complain about. First one is breathlessness, which is also known as shortness of breath or air hunger. Bluish hands, feet, and lips, which are signs of low oxygen. Tiring quickly, especially when active. A fast heartbeat. Pain in the upper right side of the abdomen. Swelling in the legs or ankles. Chest pain or pressure. Fainting or dizzy spells. Dry cough. And Raynaud's phenomenon, which is being prone to chilly blue fingers. This is especially common in persons whose pH is associated with connective tissue disease.
So, an interesting question. Are there preventative measures people can take to prevent getting pH? And I'm just going to add that I think this is a bit of a misnomer, because I really don't think that this checklist that I'm going to give you can prevent pulmonary hypertension, but can help if you are diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, don't you think?
Yeah, it's more of a, it's something where you want to keep an eye on these things, but none of them are going to be ones that, from what we've been able to determine, are going to make that definitive, well, if you didn't do this, you wouldn't get pH.
Yeah, that's right. So I found a website that kind of answered this question for me. It's called herheart.org. Whether it's credible or not, I'm not quite sure, because there are many people that have websites out there that tell you that you can reverse pulmonary hypertension, and that again, there's no way you can do that. So, but herheart.org suggested that you can check your pulse, maintain a healthy weight, get regular exercise, eat a healthy diet, no smoking, manage stress, aim for your blood fats, your cholesterol to be in a good range, and maintain a healthy blood pressure. Well, you're going to want to do that for life. You're going to want that to do that for if you have cancer or diabetes or all sorts of other diseases. So, though they say this is going to help you prevent pulmonary hypertension, it is kind of a general list of things that everybody should do and hope that you can prevent any illness in your life. But if you're going to get something, you're going to get something.
Question is, what other complications can come with pH? So, as pH worsens, several complications can develop. You can develop vascular disease or problems in your blood vessels, anemia, blood clots, abnormal heart rhythms or arrhythmia, liver damage, damage, pericardial effusion, which is collection of fluid around the heart, and in advanced stages you could end up experiencing several complications or becoming so short of breath that you struggle to do even basic tasks.
The next question is, how long does a person with PH live? And this is kind of a heavy-handed, well, I don't know if that's the right word, heavy-handed question. There's so many different variables and whatnot, but because pH has 5 different categories, so we can fit in any one of those categories, or even sometimes more than one category. So that makes each person different, even in the way that they give us their treatment. Sue could be idiopathic, Brian could be idiopathic, and I can be idiopathic, or I am, and we would all be taking different drugs. Now, it has to do maybe with how severe your pulmonary hypertension is, other external or internal factors. But
Yeah.
so that's where the how long does a person have to live with pH, because it all really depends on how severe your pH is at the time of diagnosis. Mine was fairly severe, and so that's why I think I'm progressing a little bit faster than I'd like, but and I'm not responding well to treatment either, and that again could be that I was diagnosed 5 years after the initial symptoms appeared. But saying that, I have known some patients to live less than 5 years. One of my best friends that I met through the community, we were diagnosed around the same time, and she only lived about 2 years. And but like we said in another slide, we have known others that are in their 30th year or more since diagnosis, and they're doing very well, and so their treatment is working. Maybe their pH wasn't as severe, who knows, but whatever is working for them is working well for them. And I could try and go on something that somebody else is taking who's been living with pH for 20 years, and it could be detrimental to me. So it's a hard question to ask, because each person and their treatment is so different.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something where each individual is affected by their treatments in different ways. So some people respond to a certain treatment really well. Other people don't respond to that treatment at all. And so the unfortunate thing is there are 12 different treatments here in Canada right now, and they try you on this one, and if this one doesn't work, then we start looking at the other. And it's not that they're just playing Monopoly and we're going to go with this one, we'll roll the dice, see what this one does. What they do is for each individual patient, is they determine how far it's progressed, what's the best treatment for that individual patient. And many of the patients, like Kathy, are on 3 different medications at the same time, because this one helps with this part of it, this one helps with that part of it, and the third one helps with a different part. And the combination is what you're trying to find is the best combination to treat you and to try to prolong everything as best they can and to give you a better life outcome.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add, that it's not an all-encompassing drug will fix X. Or I guess how can I explain it? Yes, it does. Like this drug treatment is going to work on, like, for example, I was on a drug called Uptravi. It's also known as Telexipag. And there is something in our body, and I can't come up with the word right now, so maybe I'll put something in the description, that this drug is supposed to open up the vessels and help you breathe more, have the blood flow better, and everything like that. And so this is a twice-a-day drug, oral, and this should help. However, there are people that are apparently like me that cannot produce this chemical on their own, and the oral treatment is not enough. So now I'm on a medication that does the same, but it is given to me 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, subcutaneously, so under the skin, through a pump, and so that's supposed to continuously go through my body and help keep these vessels open so that I can have better blood flow through, or oxygen blood flow through my lungs.
So our next question is, where can I find credible information about the disease? In Canada, we recommend the Pulmonary Hypertension Association of Canada, or PHA Canada website at phacanada.ca. They have lots of information for patients, for caregivers, for medical people, for doctors and nurses to be able to learn things about pH.
We'll put that website in our description as well. But when I got diagnosed, because I'm an inquisitive person, and I want to know more about what's happening to me, I asked my doctor, my pH specialist, what should I look at? And as most specialists say, avoid Dr. Google at all costs. So I didn't do that, but anyway, that's just me. Probably me and many other people. But he also suggested the American equivalents to PHA Canada and the UK's equivalent to PHA Canada. So I'll put those links in the description as well, just in case you want to kind of nose around and see the other information that might be on their websites. The question next is, what is your role with PHA Canada? So Don and I both signed up to be ambassadors last fall.
Last spring.
Last spring? Oh, it's been that long.
It's been almost a year.
Okay. So what we do as ambassadors is we advocate for the greater awareness of pH, both within and outside the medical community. And that's kind of that's not all that ambassadors do, but that's what we want to do as ambassadors. So this video that we're doing and the series that we'll probably continue doing is working more on the educational part to patients, to friends of patients, to family of patients, etc. And that's more what my goal as an ambassador is. So we're taking some courses on learning how to do storytelling, to tell our story, to there's a lot planned. I can't tell you everything that we have. And we're going to have a huge meeting at the beginning of June with more plans of how we're going to develop more, not necessarily programs, but ways of going out there and helping PH patients, caregivers, and especially the medical community. And that's your area of expertise, or want, I guess.
Yeah. With me, my big thing was the delay, the amount of time that it took for Kathy to be diagnosed. Mm-hmm. And all of the little things that potentially could have happened. I mean, some of them are our fault for, like Kathy said, not pressing, okay, we know it's not this, but what is it? Like, what's the next step?
And I think that's generational. I think the younger kids aren't, or the younger people aren't that way.
Yeah, but we're Gen X, and we learn, we always went with the doctor said it's this, or the doctor said it's not that.
Authority.
And we accepted that and just went on our way, instead of saying, well, yeah, but it's not. Okay, we know it's not that, but how are we going to find out what it is? Mm-hmm. So my role that I take on as an ambassador is more on the make the awareness by not necessarily the general practitioners, the family doctors. I mean, it'd be great if they were more aware, and I would love to be able to make them more aware so that they can be looking at it as a possibility much earlier in the process of trying to figure out what a person has, but more in getting so that the specialists that people are sent to, like in Kathy's case, a respirologist, there was another
internal medicine lady who was convinced it was asthma the day before I got diagnosed with PH.
Yeah, and the people that are the specialists that once the family doctor has said, okay, I'm not sure what it is, I'm going to send you to one of the experts, and getting it so that they will look at pH as a possibility much sooner in the process, so that somebody with pH can be diagnosed and treated and live a longer time. In Kathy's case, if it had been caught 2.5 years earlier, not only would her treatment have been she'd have been treated for 2.5 years, but the end case could be 2.5, 5 years that may have been lost in the end when it finally takes her, because we didn't treat it early enough, because we didn't catch it early enough, because we didn't know.
Yeah. PHA Canada also is trying to work with general practitioners and specialists. I just hit my husband, nothing important, about learning more about pulmonary hypertension, and on their website they have something that says sometimes what sounds like a horse could be a zebra, and that pulmonary hypertension is a medical zebra. So consider pulmonary hypertension if you see, and then has the list that we gave you in another slide about the symptoms that come about. So with that campaign, with the specialists, we're hoping that maybe a lot more will kind of get away from this asthma and COPD tangent that they seem to get on, and start thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, pH is a rare disease.
It's relatively new around other diseases,
Yeah.
really.
It really wasn't something that people really had down until about the last quarter century, the last 25 years. So it's something that they're still getting used to it even existing. And so it has to take a lot of people talking to them and getting information to them for them to be able to understand that this is a possibility and is something they should be looking at more quickly and not leaving it for long periods of time. The question is, how long has PHA Canada been around? And Pulmonary Hypertension Society of Canada, PHSC, was founded in 1999 by Ontario lawyer Leon Poroyan, a few years after his daughter Sherry Lynn Oliver was diagnosed with PH. In 2008, a new board was elected and moved the organization's headquarters to Vancouver, BC. PHSC was renamed the Pulmonary Hypertension Association of Canada, PHA Canada, and PHA Canada's contribution to the rare disease community was immediate.
So, today is May the 5th, and it's World PH Day. So somebody asked me, what is the importance of May the 5th, and how many countries celebrate? So as I said, May the 5th is World PH Day. I kind of go a little crazy during World PH Day.
Kind of?
It was the first special event that I celebrated soon after my diagnosis. So I tended to, I kind of went head first into it in 2020. It kind of broke the whole, we're in COVID and what's happening to our lives, monotony. So that was kind of nice. And then the year later, when things were kind of loosening up a little bit, I was able to get Calgary Tower and the Reconciliation Bridge and TELUS Spark building, which is, the TELUS, what is it?
Science
Center, lit up purple with help from people from PHA Canada. And so it was a night that was just so joyous for me. I never felt so happy and so part of something, even albeit not a nice and kind of nasty disease. But the more I've learned about PH Day, World PH Day, is that about 80 organizations or more around the world participate in World PH Day, and their activities are to raise awareness of the frequently misdiagnosed disease and to celebrate the lives of people living with PH. So this is why we decided to have this video released on May the 5th, so that you can kind of get enthused about it. After you see this video this morning, go into your wardrobe, find anything purple and slap it on your body. And if you live in a big city center, most big city centers, I think, have landmarks or whatever lit up. So we encourage you to go and see those things. So I also encourage you, if you do go to some of these landmarks and take pictures, that you share those pictures, or even share a picture of you, a nice, really cute selfie in a purple outfit, and share the photos on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and use the hashtags, #StillFighting, and you spell fighting PH WPHDIGHTING, and hashtag World PH Day 2023. I'll add those also in the description so you can see them and be able to hashtag properly, because I know if somebody told me in the morning while I'm having my coffee, I won't remember by the evening, and I don't drink. So,
Well, you drink coffee.
I
but-
drink coffee, yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't have anything in my coffee. So the two on this slide is pictures that a friend of my son's, who's a professional photographer, took of the landmarks that we had lit up for 2021. So I can't say more about PH Day. It's just one of my favorite holidays next to Christmas.
Yeah, and it's something that for our family, we've made it a very important thing. We're fighting for, to help people with PH, to help, new patients, to understand what what is happening with them, and that there is a support network. There are places for information and everything, and to try to make it that the medical community is able to also learn more about it and just be able to have more people know about and understand what PH is, so that it can help patients, the current patients and future patients.
So Donna and I would both like to thank you so much if you're still here listening to us, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm thinking it was pretty educational, and it's just not like us to sit around and do a clinical kind of kind of video. So we tried to make it a little bit more interactive, and we really appreciate you watching it, and we hope you share it with family and friends if you're a patient or a caregiver. We'll be making more. When those will be done, I don't know. It all depends on time and whatnot. Also, the picture.
Yeah, the picture we have.
Yeah.
Okay, this picture was taken in 2021, the same night as the others.
Which was freezing cold, I must tell you.
Yeah, believe me, I put my jacket back on very quickly after this. But we're actually on the Scotsman's Hill in Calgary, which is right over top of where the Saddle Dome is. And this is Kathy and I and our son Robbie and our daughter Melissa.
And again, we just thank you. Please, please, please put a comment. Please be respectable. And we look forward to your feedback.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.